So how are we all feeling after yesterday? Have we gotten over it yet? Because, do you know what? Honestly, I'm not that fussed about it. You never want to see Liverpool lose a game, but as I've mentioned, I wasn't going to be talking quadruples because, it hasn't been done before for a reason. So I'm almost relieved a little bit. That sounds weird because it's always going to sound like you're just making excuses after you got beaten, but sincerely, it is what it is for me on the results. It's all about Wednesday for me. That's the big game. Then we've got Wolves coming up on Sunday. And look, we'll go through it actually while we're talking about it. We might as well look at Liverpool's next 5 games. So it's Everton away on Wednesday in the Merseyside derby. Now we're going to start nice and early for this one. So we're going to be kicking off at 6 o'clock for the derby because it's a 7:30 kickoff. And with it being the last Merseyside derby at Goodison, we want to start a little bit early. So full 90 minutes before kickoff. Once off only though. And then we're going to be doing the Wolves game, as I mentioned, coming up after that. Then we have Aston Villa away midweek the following week. Manchester City away then as well in the Prem. And then Newcastle coming to Anfield. So these next 5 games will certainly play a big part in whether we win the Premier League or not. Stephen Landry said it was an embarrassing loss, but in the big picture, no big deal. Yeah, look, it definitely was, mate. There's no denying it. You're right, Stephen. It's never great to be getting knocked out by a team that are many places, whether they 43, 42, 43 places below us in the Football League. But, ultimately, it is what it is. And congratulations to Plymouth on getting through. And I'm sure they'll make a few quid, obviously, in that game coming up against Man City as well. So, yeah, look, Brendan Quigg said, I think getting knocked out of the FA Cup gives us a free week before the League Cup final. Arna not so slow. I can't wait for the League Cup final. I hope we can get the trophy over the line early doors. It's going to be a difficult game against Newcastle, I've no doubt about it, but be lovely to see Arna pick up the first bit of silverware that's on offer for the season. Have you noticed, actually, that his replacement at Feyenoord has already been sacked? He was let go today. So the guy they brought in, I think from Sparta Prague, if my memory's right, to replace Arne Slot has already been fired at Feyenoord. AJ said still gutted about that defeat. Yeah, look, I get it. I get it, mate. But if we had to lose a game, and I know this is a hypothetical game because, of course, you don't have to lose a game. But if we did have to lose a game, that's probably the one. That's probably the one that we could afford to lose on. Not happy about the loss, but probably a blessing, really. Looking forward to the Premier League game, said Disc Misk. It's got to be... Yes, it's got to be a benefit, surely, getting knocked out. But I'm wondering, is there other benefits to be had from it? So, as an example, are we going to see Liverpool maybe start to realise that the strength and depth after the first 15, 16 isn't really there? Or will maybe this double down to think, well, maybe these lads actually just need more minutes rather than being thrown out once or twice a season in a very mixed up Liverpool team. Nick, how are you, bro? Same fans who demanded we go full strength against Plymouth are the same happy clappers who get confused while their squad burns out late in seasons. Yes, I agree, Nick. I agree. Whereas, people like me just call it out. And look, it was always going to happen to us. Something had to give when we have such a minimal squad that the manager trusts. You can talk about absolute players, but who does the manager really trust? There's probably 15 of them. And yeah, something has to give there. But, we've got some good business to finish the season with. Premier League's there to be won. Champions League, who knows? And we're in a final. I guess it's just a matter of what constitutes a good season for you guys now. Like, what does this season have to come up with to be considered a good season? Because you can't finish the season empty-handed. That's absolute madness at this point. It would be nothing but a failure. So, to me, you have to get the Prem. And anything after that, I'm looking at as a bonus. But the Premier League has to be gotten at all costs. You cannot allow this situation to mess up at this point. Everything has to be put into it in the Premier League. Craig, to be fair, if we beat Plymouth, we'd have to play City. That would be a huge energy-wasting game. Well, that's not technically true. The ball number would have been different. There's no guarantee that ball would have come out. But I get where you're coming from. But, like, playing City, it's not a daunting thing, really, to be honest with you, the way that they're playing. But I'm not displeased that we're out of the FA Cup. It's the fourth most important competition for me of the four competitions, because, you know, I don't really care too much about it. But Premier League's the one now. It's got to happen. James, how are you, bro? How's it keeping, Craig? I bet you could have done with some M&M pretzels after that defeat yesterday. No, I think the ones you sent me, man, were more than enough. I kind of got my fix. After the defeat yesterday, do you know, I didn't feel the usual anger and frustration that I would feel, James, after a defeat. I just kind of felt, I don't know, hollow. Does that make sense? You know, if we lose to Everton on Wednesday, I'll have a completely different feeling than losing that game last night. By the way, the 21-22 season was the closest we've been to a quadruple, if not for Courtois heroics and Villa choking. It wasn't in our own hands, though, AJ. So that's why I never really considered that. I know the way that Villa game went, they got into a good position, but going into the last day, it was never in our hands in the league. Now, the Champions League final, of course, was in our own hands, and as you mentioned, the Courtois worldie, and that was frustrating. But the league was never in our own hands. So I never really thought about that as a possible quadruple, because we needed favours. And when you need favours, you know, I don't think you've any right to think about it, or hope, or expect. If we win the Prem and Trent goes, that's the best of a bad situation, in my opinion. That being said, I'd love him to stay and win the Premier League, Champions League. Excited for Wednesday. Wednesday's going to be huge. Absolutely huge, Mike. And I'm there for it. I'm ready for Wednesday. I'm really looking forward to it, because it has a real big game feel about it. Last Merseyside derby at Goodison, we want revenge for Everton kind of being, I guess, the final nail in our title ambition coffin last season by beating us. Obviously, Moyes is back in there now as well. There's just so many interesting things going into this Merseyside derby. You know, you add into that, you know damn well that Arsenal fans are sitting there praying that we drop points, and they're going to look to be jumping on that. It kind of has the feeling to me that if we win this game, it's done. Again, I'm not telling you what to feel at home or any of you guys watching, but for me, we beat Everton, it's done. They're not catching up 9 points on us. They just aren't. We're not going to drop enough for them to close that. So if we beat Everton, I think we win the Premier League. And I think, I'm not saying if we lose to Everton, we don't win the Premier League, by the way. Not at all. But I think then you give Arsenal actual incentive. But right now, I don't know if they're still in Dubai or where they are at the minute, but you know that they're all going to be tuning in on Wednesday, glued to the game, thinking 100% this is one that they've penciled in. They would have had Bournemouth penciled in as a hopeful one for Liverpool to drop points as well. And they'll definitely be looking at this game thinking, well, they beat them last year. You know, it's the last time at Goodison in the Merseyside derby. So, yeah, it's big.